this is when I call it the matrix happened for me. And the matrix to me is being able to figure things out and getting to where you want to get to, but doing it in a different angle. I would say like a loophole, you could call it. So, I was going to school at City College in Harlem of New York, and, getting my C- degree out there. And then I was working full time at Columbia University, which is an Ivy League, right? Mm. So once again, that discrepancy there, right? Mm-hmm. So what I realized when I was working at Columbia is value creation. So value creation to me is, what can you do for that employer or that company to keep you or to keep promoting you, right? So what I did at Columbia is they had this archaic financial system there, like multiple systems, accounts payable, receivable, etc. And I learned every single financial system, okay? And so when Columbia restructured their departments, they put a business manager in each one. And I was about 21 years old, didn't finish, college yet. So I didn't even have my bachelor's degree, but I created value for them because I knew all their systems and how to operate that. So when they were restructuring, I applied for that, but the requirements was a bachelor's degree with 3 years of experience. Didn't have that, but I created value because I learned all their archaic systems. So they gave me a chance. They gave me the job. And my assistant actually had her master's degree.
Are you serious?
Yeah, so she was fucking pissed at me. She was like, who's this fucking young Asian kid? Is my boss now? But I became the business manager of the history department. And I see you have a ton of history here of things. So I admire that. And because I created value, and then what came with that is I get to take classes for free in Ivy League. So I'm like, wait, you're telling me I could be an Ivy Leaguer even though I'm getting a C- average up in City College of New York in Harlem, right? It's only a couple stops away, so it was close by. And then at that point, I was in charge of, I think, a dozen people in the history department. They all reported to a 21-year-old kid, but because I created value and I knew all their archaic system. And I helped the professors with their financial reporting as well, because they all get these massive grants, right? And I was able to, put them together, report it properly, and then also help with their travels and et cetera expenses. So that part created value. And then the next part is what I realized too is at CUNYs or city colleges in New York, you get the tier 2, 3 jobs, right? You get different companies recruiting these students from the tier 2, tier 3 companies. Tier 1 companies go to the Ivy Leagues. And then I said to myself, I need to become a student. The only reason, so I could get into the job database. So that's what I did. And this is where the matrix happened for me. I was able to convince the dean to let me in, that I'm going to take, this is after I graduated. I just graduated with my psychology degree, C- average. He was like, you got a C- average. Like, I can't let you in here. And I'm like, look, I just want to take a few classes. It's not a big deal. And then I got recommendations from the professors I worked for. So they all wrote me recommendations. So the dean's like, fine. So I started becoming a student. Obviously, I'm going to fail. Like, I didn't care, right? Mm-hmm. I cared about the job, the tier 1 jobs in there. And guess where that job came from? Deutsche Bank, which is an investment bank at 60 Wall Street in Manhattan. So I said, okay, I'm going to apply for all these investment banking jobs. I would literally make it to the top 3 of each one, but I had no experience, right? Mm-hmm. And then at Deutsche Bank, the managing director, I literally said to him, look, I'm going to work harder than anybody out there on the trading floor. I worked full time. I went to school full time. So hard work was nothing new to me. And I'm going to bust my ass and I'll learn everything. It's a job. I'm going to do it every day. I'm going to get really good at it. I'll stay last here, and he basically was like, I like it. And I graduated later. I was probably like 24. So most people graduate, 21, 22. I was 24. So it's a bit older, but more life lessons, I would say, and work experience than just coming out of college.
Mm-hmm. When you talk about the matrix, can you be a little more specific?
Yeah, so the matrix to me is figuring things out, but doing it in a way where it's reachable, right?
Okay.
Like for me to get that job on Wall Street, what happened to me is I grew up in Manhattan, so I said, where do you make money? Where's all the money coming from? Wall Street. So how do I get there? Right?
So you figure out the goal and reverse engineer how to get there.
Exactly.
Okay.
You just have to figure out how to get there, but do it in a way where it's actually doable, right? Like the way I've done it. And this is why I say I shouldn't be here, just because I figure things out. And I had friends too, for example, this was a slick thing on resumes. They'll put like they went to school 4 years, but they never graduated. But the employer thinks you graduated. So they could have gone part-time for 4 years, right? So they'll submit their resume, and a lot of these banks at the time, I mean, maybe back then, I don't know about now, but they wouldn't even check. I think their HR departments, they have 4 years at this college? All right, that means he has his degree. They'll let him in, and some of my friends would get jobs too on Wall Street because they put 4 years.
No shit.
Yeah, I didn't do that. I did it differently, but I got my C- average. So they didn't graduate, but I did. So yeah, I was there from up till 2009. This is when the big bank meltdown happened and the financial crisis. I mean, I think Citibank was a $1 a share. Everyone was losing money. And it was a recession. And so I left. I saw my bonuses and my pay pretty much vanish. So I had to reinvent myself.
How did you do that?
So in 2009, left. I saved up some money, and essentially, started investing into startups, and into startups, and seeing how these startups over time were being built. And I think that's where I learned how to build a company.
What kind of startups were you interested in?
For example, it'll be very diversified. I didn't know what I was doing, right? So I would just put small amounts of money, like 10 grand, 20 grand into certain things. But the real experience I learned from that was, when you lose, you don't lose the lesson. So, many startups fail. Let's admit that. But mainly what I realize is the egos of the founders. Also the capabilities of
the egos of the founders.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
When I say that is founders, when they raise a certain amount of money, their heads get big. They get their 15 minutes of fame and they think, I made it.
No matter where you're watching the Shawn Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this at all, anything, please like, comment, and subscribe. And most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, head to Apple Podcasts and Spotify and leave us a review.